Okay, everybody, I think it's time to get started with our intros. First of all, welcome to our first virtual Impactathon. I know some of you have joined us at our live ones before, so it's great to see your faces. But we're really excited to be hosting this for all of you, and we hope that you enjoy and that you get something fun out of it, something valuable, meaningful. So here we go. Let's see, get my screen organized here. All right, Impactathon Health Quest. So just to do a quick overview of our Impactathon, as most of you probably know, but in case you didn't, we're doing this for 2 consecutive weekends, 6 sessions total, 2.5 hours each. So basically we're just meeting Friday, Saturday, Sunday for 2.5 hours, just a small part of the day, to build some connection with each other. For every session, we'll be doing a raffle at the end of it if you do a pre and post survey. So be on the lookout for that. You'll be able to make a good amount of money, and Leslie can explain that to you later. So I'm excited to do the raffling of the Amazon gift cards. And overall, we're going to be learning about how our current systems affect our health, paths to radical resistance, strategies for community health and activism, along with game design and technology, using technology for social good. So I hope that's interesting to all of y'all, and let's move on. So to quickly go over Zoom, some of you may be really familiar with it and some of you may not. So 2 of our facilitators, Allison and Hillary, are quickly going to give a rundown of how to use the Zoom for this Impactathon.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
Hillary.
No, you can go ahead, Allison. I think you got this.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So just really quickly, just going to go over Zoom real quick if people may not be familiar. So at the leftmost bottom of the screen, there's the mute button, and you can turn off and on your microphone whenever you want. If there are many people talking and it's becoming too noisy, just know that you can shut that off. If you want to speak, press and hold the space bar, and it'll turn on your mic. And then once you're done speaking, just turn it off. To start and stop your video is just to the right of that, and you can do that at any time. If you need to shut it off at any point, you can also do that. Whatever makes you comfortable. And
yeah, so we're going to be recording each of the sessions, but we're going to edit them for confidentiality. Whenever you want to interact with us, if you click participants, there's several icons at the bottom. Raise hand, yes, no, go slower, go faster, and if you click more, there's like thumbs up and thumbs down.
Awesome, thank you for doing that rundown for us. So moving on, let's do a quick introduction of our stellar team that's been putting this together for the past couple of months for y'all. So I can start off. My name is Amber Orguin. I work for the Everett program at UC Santa Cruz, and I'm one of the Impactathon coordinators in organizing this. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm super passionate about using technology for social justice. I've been working on that for the past maybe 5 years, and I love doing this kind of work. I love working with youth and exploring, tech for social good. So that's why I'm here. I love the work that I do. Leslie, do you want to introduce yourself really quickly?
Yes, give me 1 second. How do I, oh, here it is. Okay. Can you see me? Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Leslie. I think most of you all know me. Some folks don't, but I still kind of in ways worked at the Digital Nest as their people coordinator, and I've been co-leading these Impactathons with Amber and our stellar fellows at the Everett program, and I really enjoy creating curriculums and doing tech stuff for social good, and this is something I've been passionate about. I'm really glad you're all here and learning, and this is a great way to end my career with Digital Nest because I'm no longer working there. That's all.
And we miss you already, Leslie. Come back to us.
Cool.
Can I have our awesome facilitators start off their introductions, please?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Karina. Yeah, I'm also part of the EVER program. I'm a fellow there, and the reason why I'm here, I like working on social justice issues as well and having conversations with the youth and community. Yeah, so love being here and super excited to see what you guys are gonna come up with.
Hi everybody, my name is Mark Arenas. I use he, him pronouns. And the reason I'm here today is because I really enjoy teaching and facilitating and just getting to know all of you. See some familiar faces in here, so I'm really excited to talk to you all again.
Hello, everybody. My name is Hillary Asher. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm an anthropology major, and I'm here because I am also very passionate about social justice, and I love learning about social justice.
Your new friend. But moving on, Karina's gonna help us do this next slide about setting the tone for this whole event that we're doing here. So Karina, go ahead and get us started.
Hi everyone, so we're just setting up the tone. So for this health quest, we're focused on creating a space where we feel motivated to create and engage in conversation with one another, highlighting these systems that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be through a peer-to-peer, but online, right? Virtual. We hope that you'll make valuable connections with one another. We hope that we walk with them and we knowledge is power, right? Use it, implement it with our technology and how we can use it for social good. We will be discussing various complex topics, but by no means are we experts. We are here to learn and create and expand together. So at any point, if any content to you is not clear or seems wrong, please speak up and send us a message privately or reach out to any of the facilitators and we will get back to you. And again, we are on mental health professionals. We have somebody on call, so feel free to message her at any point. We only have limited knowledge and your needs might differ. So remember that we are here for you. And if at any moment you need to take a breather, do what is best for you. This is a safe and open environment. So let's just learn and grow together and meet these expectations as a community.
You're on mute, Amber.
You're on mute, Amber.
Dang it. Sorry, guys. Thank you. So community agreements. Here are a couple of them, but first I want to quickly define what they are. So community agreements are a consensus on what a person in our group needs from each other and commits to each other in order to feel safe, supported, open, productive, and trusting so that we can all do our best work together. Community agreements are not rules or norms. I want them to be an aspiration, a collective vision for all of us and how we can be in relationship with one another. And they're important to us because we can't really achieve our vision if we're in a hostile, disrespectful group culture. We're going to be having some intense and critical conversations throughout this Impactathon. And so we want to make sure that we build a trusting space where we're all feeling free to feel vulnerable and feeling safe with each other and really try and build this connection even though it is online. So I'm going to quickly go over these. The first one is API, assume positive intent. So assume that not everyone comes in with the same set of experiences and knowledge that you do. So assume that people have good intentions. And also please have positive intent yourself and be accountable for the impact of your actions and your words. So that's the first one and maybe one of the most important ones to me. The second one, confidentiality. So sharing the lessons that we learn with each other, but not sharing the names or the identifiers behind certain stories that people might share. So just making sure to keep that confidential. And though we are recording these sessions, anything that is shared privately we'll be editing out before uploading, and you can always contact us if you want us to edit an additional part out and we can always have that conversation. The third one, use I statements. Speak from your own experiences rather than making general assumptions about a whole group. Next, challenge the idea or the belief and not the person. And then avocado pit. If you lose your train of thought, say you're sharing a comment and suddenly you just forgot what you had to say, totally fine. If that happens, you can feel free to say avocado pit, or you could use anything else, but just be aware that mistakes are welcome. We encourage everybody to have, to have the courage to share with each other. And this is a safe space that we want to create for you all. And so I hope that we're able to accomplish that. Can we get a thumbs up in the reactions if everyone agrees to these community agreements? We can also test that feature out. There we go. Thumbs up. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Cool. So moving on. All right, Karina's going to get us started on our social justice content for today. Go ahead and take it away for us, Karina.
All right, guys, so we're gonna get started. So why are we here today? Why is it important to learn about health disparities in the US, and how is it important to us, right? So learning about our health and our communities allow us to start having conversations about what's going on with our health and our communities, and how these disparities in our health system are occurring and how they're affecting. Let's start a conversation about what's going on, especially with our pandemic. And so with that, it makes us, it allows us to come up with answers about what it means to be communal, and how to be healthy as a community, right? So knowledge is power. We're here to learn and understand how we can get this knowledge in order to move forward and in order to build systems that are sustainable and healthy for our communities. So we're gonna give you guys a little perspective of a little bit of what health inequity looks like.
My grandmother tells a story of hospitals in her day. One of barriers, one of trauma, one of fear. When we are sick, she pulls remedies from a tattered notebook, recipes passed through generations of those misunderstood by the world around them. She ensures this cold, this ache, this fever will break by morning. All we need is this prayer, this herb, this belief that better days are coming. She doesn't speak of bad health. She says with stern eyes, only speak life. A lesson, a warning, and a hope in one. Packaged words birthed from a time when healthcare didn't look like help for us. I feel this chill down my spine when I am ill. When my only option left is a doctor's office or the never-ending maze of a hospital. The fear that there will be assumptions about who I am, that things will be ignored like culture and beliefs, that I won't be heard, that history repeats itself. Fear that these hallways will be the same broken roads instead of bridges to new understanding. I envy those who don't have to sit with crossed fingers hoping. Envy their peace of mind and comfort. All anyone wants is to be understood, to be heard, to be told that help is actually on the way.
Well, thank you for introducing that video for us, Karina. Do you want to digest that a little bit for us with this slide?
Yeah, of course. So one example that is making things quite obvious that we have these racial disparities within our health, right? Like it's talked in the video, that's just one example, one perspective. But it's this pandemic that we're living in, right? We're living with COVID-19, but the thing is, like, is COVID-19 really the pandemic, or has we already have been existed before within our systems? You know, because when we look at the reports of demographic, these disparities are predominantly affecting people of color and predominantly people that are Black, Latinx, and Indigenous communities, right? We have these oppressive systems that have been institutionalized through our history with our laws and policies that have violently and continuously act upon our vulnerable communities. And so these disparities not only extend to that, but the existing evidence also shows that healthcare is expensive. we have a system that privatizes of our healthcare system, right? So it's a for-profit rather than for community wealth. I mean, community, yeah, community wellness. So our institutions become very exclusive, right? It's only for the wealthy who can afford these privatized health insurances, and they're not available for everybody, right? So even things like the Affordable Care Act that Obama presented, it might be not enough, right? It might help some communities, but even people who might be legally restricted, like people who identify as unauthorized in this country, might not be able to afford or be able to access this healthcare. And even people who have disabilities, right? If they're unable to go to work and pay for that healthcare, how can we expect them to access that health? And it goes even further. The racial disparities that we see, they're quite obvious when our community's health is affected too, because it affects our health status. So we start seeing like things like imposter syndrome that first generations might feel when they come into a predominantly white space, anxiety that spills over for having to deal with stress and family issues on top of other things that we might be dealing with, right? And then intergenerational trauma, that's also a big part of our communities, because we're constantly being put in vulnerable positions with systems that are set up to fail. And even losing our home remedies and cultural knowledge, because it becomes so privatized, and these wellness practices and remedies are being pushed away because they're not seen as valid or objective enough, right? But if they might be important to, that is part of our culture. Yeah, so health disparities, right? They don't really stem, I mean, they stem from health inequities. They don't, systemic differences, there's systemic differences in health groups and communities occupying unequal positions in society that are avoidable and unjust, right? So we have to be careful, because our health system might be really one problem, but it might intersect upon other systems that might be affecting communities in different ways, right? So like Bernie here has this quote here: "This coronavirus pandemic exposes the incredible weakness and dysfunctionality of our healthcare system." So like I said, right, even with our pandemic that we are experiencing right now, we constantly see people of color being put in the front lines, right? Like essential workers, who are the people who are out in our streets and having to do the care work, right? When before they were considered unauthorized, or maybe people who were just here to steal people's jobs, and now they're considered essential. So that's just one example, right? And yeah, so it just shows that Latinx and Black people continuously are put at the disadvantage from the very beginning. And so it's important to be considerate of our privilege as well, because there's a difference between having the comfort of being home in your own room, and then having to come back home in a place where your tios, your grandmas, your siblings are there. So it's like a difference of health disparities and opportunities that one has, right? Yeah, so with that being said, we're gonna have open the floor for some discussion about our mental health.
Awesome. So let's just do a big group discussion. I think that would work for us, on how do you think society impacts our mental health based on what we've covered so far. So I know that might have brought up a lot of ideas or questions. So now would be a good time to comment on those or express those. And maybe I'll give a minute for people to think, but feel free to share once you have any thoughts about this. I know silence can be awkward, but it's good. It's good. Silence is good pressure for people to think. So it's, yeah, don't worry about it. If you have a comment, feel free to share when you're ready. I put a minute on the timer here for 30 more seconds for thought.
Is that a minute to think about it?
Yeah, a minute to think about it. But feel free to comment whenever.
I can make a comment. I think one thing is society, like I used to think, or not, but kind of like what you see on TV and stuff, is that there's one normal. And so for people who don't fit what is perceived as normal, you might feel like something's wrong with you. And so that can be who you see on TV or who you see on magazines or when you're on social media. So not feeling like you fit that normal can definitely impact your mental health.
That's an excellent point. That was from Giselle.
From Gabby.
Gabby, sorry, I didn't see the name down there. But yeah, that's an excellent point, Gabby. Does anyone have something to build off from there?
I do. I actually, I think with, I think a lot of, like, for example, I do, with social media these days, and you have all Kylie Jenner and all Kim and all these famous people, and most of them look a specific way. I think with social media, a lot of teenagers and a lot of mainly girls, but I'm saying we because I also have friends, but I personally sometimes struggle with a personal appearance on how I look. Am I too skinny? Do I not? Is this my hair done? And a lot of judgment as well. I feel judgment when it comes to when I go out in public with just a hoodie and no makeup and pants and sandals, kind of like a lazy day. But again, we have a sort of people have an image that women should always have their makeup done or should look a certain way. And I think it's mainly because of social media. A lot of people mental health is kind of diminishing because of it. And I am I believe, a victim of that because of how I sometimes look in the mirror and I don't like what I see because of what I see in social media. So.
Yeah, no, that's a really powerful point, Giselle, that I also resonate with. And I think a lot of other people here could probably relate to that as well. We have a lot of external pressures and expectations that we think that we should meet based on the systems that have been put in place for us. And I'm not talking about just our health system, but I'm talking about our families, our religions, our cultures, and all the abstract systems that go around in place to make us feel this pressure to perform in a certain way that we shouldn't have to perform. So I definitely resonate with that, Giselle, and thank you for sharing. Patrick, I see a hand raised. Did you want to share a comment?
Yeah. So yeah, to like build off that, definitely like society and culture, you know, we like certain
Okay, it has been 30 seconds. I set a little timer on my phone here to manage our time. But are there any comments to any of these questions or any of the content that we just went over? I know that was kind of a lot to digest, so. And to respond to something in the chat, for our slides and notes, all of our materials are going to be on our Google site for review, which is available to everybody for time's sake. But I'm loving that we're able to engage so deeply with the content. You guys are super just amazing, so thank you. So we're going to move on to thinking about economic oppression, and Karina is going to help us go through this information. Go ahead, Karina.
Yeah, so like Vianney was just talking about, right? The COVID has allowed us to see that it's a systemic failure, that it's becoming harder and harder to ignore, right? And so like what Amber had just covered today, right? Racial and ethnic disparities are arguably the most obstinate inequities in health over time, despite the many strides that people talk about that we've had to improve our health in the United States. So therefore, equity and health equity need to take account into our, oh, can you go back, Amber? Sorry. Yeah, so we also have to consider that we live in a capital system, so we have to understand how our economic system plays a big role. And so I'm going to define the economic system real quick for you guys. So economic systems organize people based on the things they make and how those things are shared. And that spills over into our vicious cycle of inequality. that starts with the laws and the policies that have implemented over time that spilled over and have built up institutional racism and discrimination of people of color within the systems, which then unfortunately has caused us to create a gap between people's identities, right? And it gives away the opportunity for them to own a home, or even that's the difference between owning a home and having an apartment, right? Or the access to education. So it's limited. These opportunities are limited rather than because of these laws and policies that keep reinforcing ideologies that tell us that some people benefit from those things and some people don't. And that's a matter of identity, and it's not. And we're starting to see that these laws and policies are actually part of what affects our opportunities for these things. And that creates a racial wealth gap that we have today, right? That determines that predominantly white folk are the only people who can own homes, or predominantly people that are white are able to take their kids into higher education, right? So this is a wealth gap, and we can see that people of color are not into these institutions because there's gaps within the opportunities that they're able to come into, and that spills over into their ability to have a high income, right? And the opportunity to have high paying jobs. So it's like a combination of these factors that melt into and limit our opportunities for a high paying job and high income. That unfortunately even goes even further and spills into our race and gender inequality, because these laws and policies become so ingrained into our society that we become to accept them, and then spill over into a patriarchy that exists within our economic system, our political and historical systems. And then just to give you guys a heads up, this is just a little overview. On the next slide, if you want, you can screenshot this. And like we said earlier, we will provide the slides, and the Google site is available in the chat as well. And then if you want this, I'm gonna screenshot it as well, and you can privately message me and I will send that to you. Yeah, and then we're gonna move on to one video about inequality, and we have AOC.
Welcome back, Congresswoman. Thanks for coming to talk to us.
Thank you.
You represent the Oh, you're welcome. You represent the District of New York City that encompasses parts of Queens, the Bronx, and has become the single hardest hit congressional district in the nation. It's an area that is heavily minority immigrants, working class, and working poor. So how much clearer does it have to be in the country that this pandemic, while treating us all equally, killing us as it kills us, but why isn't there more emphasis on what's happening to poor people in this country?
Of course. Well, you know, I think sometimes when a pandemic like this hits, or even any natural disaster like a hurricane, like what we saw in Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Maria, they don't happen in a vacuum. They happen in a social and historical context. And when communities have already been made vulnerable by mass incarceration, when these things happen in the context of redlining, in wealth inequality, in a racial wealth gap, what it does is that it impacts the most vulnerable the most. And my congressional district, New York 14, out of the top 10 most impacted zip codes in America, 5 of them are in my congressional district, including the top 3. And what we're seeing is that the communities that are most impacted across the country are overwhelmingly working class, Black, and brown. In Chicago alone, 70% of the mortality are Black Americans. And it just goes to show that these things do not happen in a vacuum. They happen when communities are disproportionately on the front line. Here in New York City, about 65% of our frontline workers, including grocery store workers, delivery workers, and more, are Black and brown. They're Black and Latino, and they're non-white, and they're working class, and they're being paid 10, 15 bucks an hour. They don't have health care. And so when your family is ravaged by a pandemic, you can't see a doctor. You're already your family's already operating in the context of public policies that don't really see the reality that our families are confronting. And so, it's tragic, but it's also no surprise that it's impacting the vulnerable the most.
Congresswoman, the Surgeon General suggested last week that African Americans and Latinos should step up and stop behaviors like drinking and smoking to help curb the spread of coronavirus in their communities. And I thought his comments reinforced the notion that personal responsibility is to blame for the racial health disparity rather than systemic racism. What did you make of that?
I completely agree. It's so funny how this pandemic when it was impacting the elderly, when it was impacting all sorts of people, we didn't talk about personal responsibility. We only started talking about taking personal responsibility over contracting coronavirus when we started talking about Black Americans contracting it at a higher rate. Obviously, there are certain things we can do to make sure that pre-existing conditions don't exist, but ultimately, it's inequity that's the pre-existing condition. It's the inequality that's a pre-existing condition. And you can't just go to someone and tell them, hey, you should have had healthcare this whole time when you're working, an hourly job and your employer doesn't give it to you. A lot of these pre-existing conditions have to do with the inability to access quality healthcare, the inability to afford quality healthcare, because we live in a country that continues to have a for-profit healthcare system, unlike the rest of the developed world. And on top of that, the Bronx, we have a mortality rate that is twice. We have a coronavirus mortality rate that is twice the level of the rest of New York City. It's not a coincidence? The fact that the Bronx has one of the highest asthma rates in the United States. And a lot of that has to do with environmental inequities that oftentimes, just look at Flint, just look at Baltimore, just look at the Bronx, that public policy has polluted these communities, has poisoned air and poisoned our water. And that is what is creating the large-scale pre-existing conditions that are making our communities much more vulnerable than others. And so
she is an awesome role model, and I wish she had time to watch this whole video because she just kicks ass throughout. But I hope that resonated with a lot of people. I absolutely love her, and all of that she said was super on point. Were there anything in the chat? Yeah, the individualization of social issues Marie brought up in the chat. Yeah, super, super important points that she's making. Mm-hmm. So with that, I don't think we have time for discussion, sadly, because we have so much to discuss and everyone has amazing comments that I want to hear, but the time is limiting. So I'm going to move on to our next activity that Karina is going to lead us through.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop sharing now, and Karina's going to share screen.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit just to explain. So AOC, right, she was talking about how these preconditioned systems and everything that is already set in stone, right? But how do we find freedom amid these oppressive systems and these exploitative systems, right, that keep affecting our communities and our most vulnerable communities? But the truth is that no one is truly free, right, while others are oppressed. So I really like that quote because it's true. I mean, if you look at the pandemic, you can tell that not everyone needs each other. Like, we cannot survive without each other, right? We are supposed to be together. So learning about our health and our community's health is an important and crucial step to achieving our burning desire that we have inside of us. So I'm going to take you guys through a little activity to get through what are these core things that we have in us and how can we get them out for us to fight these oppressive and exploitative systems. So I'm going to share a whiteboard, and if you guys can get your notebook and your pen out for me, because we're going to do a little drawing and a little activity. So let me go to the board now. And at any point, if you have questions, please let us know or speak up on the mic. I won't be upset if you stop me or anything. All right, whiteboard. Okay, can you guys see that whiteboard? Anybody tell me?
You can see it.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's there.
All right, let's do this. So what this is called the let's title it. The objective vision circle. Okay, so we're gonna draw a big circle. Oh, that's kind of ugly, but okay, don't judge me. I'm not the best artist. Okay, or am I? Just kidding. Okay. Then we're gonna draw a middle circle, and then an even smaller little rod. All right, you guys got that? Thumbs up for me, please, if you're ready.
We're supposed to be drawing these, right?
Yeah, please do draw. At least attempt to draw them, because yeah, we're not all artists here. Okay, so we're gonna start and we're gonna have a conversation as we go, okay? So in the middle, you're gonna put your core values. And then next we're gonna have our beliefs. And I'll explain what each are in a minute. And then our last one is gonna be our actions, attitudes, and reactions. Okay, so let's get started. First, values, right? So what are values? Values are a person's own set of principles which they consider of great importance. This could be like friendship or love. Beliefs are ideas that are accepted and as true without any facts. So we just kind of take them. So this could be examples, could be like stigmas or stereotypes, or even laws that tell us like what to follow. So those are beliefs. Attitudes and actions and reactions, those are a way of thinking, feeling, or acting in regards to someone or something. Okay? Does anybody have any questions so far? Everybody good? You guys can speak up on the mic. Yeah? Okay, cool. No questions, I'm assuming. All right, cool. So then, all right, we're gonna have you guys brainstorm just a little bit of these things, so then we can together deconstruct how we can get into the core values and move forward into implementing a system that's more sustainable and healthier for our communities. So what are some core values that you guys can think of? Like I said earlier, an example was like friendship. Can anyone share a core value that they feel like they have?
For me, it's family.
Family. Yep. Okay, anyone else? Reliability. Okay, yeah. You can also type it in the chat. Yep. Love, anybody? Anybody like love? Anything else?
Friendships.
Equity. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Friendships.
Yeah, friendships. Okay, awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so what are our core values, right? So I love these things: family, reliability, love, equity, friendships. These are all core values. Okay. Oops, too much yellow. Okay, core values: love, family, reliability, friendships, equity. Okay, so we all value those things. And so something that to keep in mind is that these core values are things that we already have within us, right? So these are progress or ideas that we have already achieved and have ingrained within us. And then we move on to beliefs. So
what are some beliefs that you guys can come up with? Like stigmas or stereotypes that you've heard in the news or even in social settings. Can I have a volunteer, please?
I could share, Karina. So, oh, wait, can you hear me? Okay, Amber, you can hear me. Yeah, so something that I have grown up believing is that to a city, there's like bad neighborhoods, there are good parts of the city. That's, yeah.
So that's 1 more minute to journal and reflect. Okay, last 20 seconds, but while we're wrapping up, are there, While we're wrapping up, are there any thoughts that people want to share from what they journaled, or any thoughts on the content so far before we transition to our last activity for this first half of the session? Okay. Yeah, again, no pressure. That's all right. You can keep your thoughts private. I totally understand that. So yeah, just stuff to reflect on for later. So here we go. We're going to jump into a bit of a more high energy activity. So we're going to do some systems of oppression Jeopardy. Woo!
Hey.
So here we go. Everyone is on their own team. Let me look at my instructions real quick. So everyone is their own team. We're all competing together. Whoever raises their hand first in the chat gets the first pick at a Jeopardy question. You get 30 seconds to answer each question, and I'm going to play some music. Hopefully that works out. So when the music ends, that's your time to answer. Let's see. And then whoever gets the most points for Jeopardy gets an extra raffle ticket for the end raffle that we have. Question in the chat. Oh yes, and a reminder to lower your hand after you've raised it so we can tell who the new people are. So I think we're only going to do maybe 5 minutes of Jeopardy because we do need to have some time for our tech workshop. So I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes and see how it goes.
Amber,
But yes,
can we
question?
do a quick tutorial on how to raise hands? Somebody asked that question.
Yeah, I can do a quick tutorial. I don't know if you can see my, what's it called? My Zoom buttons. That's not.
Can't see her.
Yeah, so let me see. Let me stop share. I'll try and share my whole desktop maybe. Can you guys see my buttons now? No?
No.
Okay, sorry. Let's see. Oh, I know what I can do.
It's on the slide.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the slide. Zoom rundown. Okay, so in order to raise your hand, you're gonna go, so on the bottom left-hand corner, you should see mute, stop video, and then this icon right here called participants. You're gonna click on participants, and then once you do that, you go by your name. So find yourself in the participants list, go by your name. You should be able to, I think, click more, and then raise your hand from there, right? Did I get that right? I have different viewing settings on mine, so.
Yeah, and some people might have it in the bottom of the new window that pops up. It'll be in the bottom, just lined up. It's a little blue hand.
Oh, I see it. All right, thanks.
Okay, awesome. Feel free to, yeah, I see people practicing here. So feel free to contact one of the facilitators privately if you need some extra help figuring out the participant raising your hand part. So I'm gonna go to the Jeopardy board. Okay, all right, everybody lower your hands. We're gonna restart. All right, ready? I'm about to launch in 3, 2, 1. Raise hands, go. Whoever's first. VNA? Is that the first person?
Yeah.
All right, VNA, which question? Definitions, questions, or fun facts?
Questions.
For how much?
Oh, I don't know. 200?
Questions for 200. So the question is, true or false? Marginalization happens only to those people who are physically or mentally unable to work. Go. True or false? What do you think?
I'll say false just because I don't know what I don't know what that word means.
That's okay. This is how we learn what that word means too. Because not everyone might know either. But let's see the answer. So false. Marginalized communities are communities confined to the lower or peripheral edge of society, such as a group. Such a group is denied involvement in mainstream economic, political, cultural, and social activities due to their living conditions, lifestyles, or exclusion. So I think you said false, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so 200 points to VNA.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah. Okay, next person. Whoever raises their hand. Corona. Which one do you want?
I'll do fun facts for 200 or 100. Or how do you? Does it matter?
You can choose any question. So you could just jump fun facts for 500 or questions for 100, whichever part on the board. 200? All right. Fun facts. Who is this character?
Pickle Rick.
Pickle Rick. Yes, exactly. 200 points to Corona. And Hillary or Allison, can you keep track of points for us, please? Awesome.
Yeah, I got it.
Let's do maybe 3 more rounds. 2 more rounds. 2 more. All right, next person to raise their hand. I think that's Arturo.
Yeah.
Which question do you want?
Fun facts 400.
All right, true or false? Snoopy is yellow in Brazil.
True. Oh.
False. Snoopy is white everywhere, apparently. I wouldn't have known that question either. Okay. Who's next? VNA? Go ahead.
Fun fact for 400. Oh, it's the same one.
Oh, whoops, sorry, I forgot. Click the answer. Okay, someone try a non-fun facts column. That's too easy.
Do I pick a different one?
Yeah, you can pick a different one.
I'll do questions for 400. Oh.
Sorry, a little technical difficulty. Let's do a question for 300. So true or false? Determining who has privilege or disadvantage is complex because cultural, social, and historical changes affect which groups are privileged and which groups are not. True or false?
True.
Yes, very, very true.
Nice.
Well done. 300 points to, was that Corona?
VNA.
VNA, sorry, I'm getting mixed up.
Okay, I'm gonna give a few more seconds for people to come back. I was just running around my house to get here so fast. Cool. Can I get a little check-in? Give me a thumbs up if you're back. I'll be checking. Cool. I see Frank's thumbs up. I see people with camera. Cool. I'm seeing some thumbs up. All right. Seems like most of us are here. Gabby Davidson, are you here? There you are. Arturo, are you here? I don't know if I got your thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, for sure. All right, everybody, welcome again. My name is Mark, and I use he, him pronouns. And I know the transition from what we were just learning to technology can be a bit rough sometimes. But we're going to try to integrate everything we've learned about mental health into a few different activities that we're going to go through. And this is more of me showing you and walking you through a few steps. We're going to be learning about twine, and if you never heard of twine before, we're going to get into it. Long story short, it's a way to tell a story online. And yeah, I'm going to jump right into it. If at any point you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and I have Allison's monitoring the chat, and she'll let me know if there's any questions. And I'll take frequent breaks or pauses to ask all of you if there's anything I need to clarify. So that being said, just to very briefly talk about technology. Also, my audio can cut out sometimes, so also let me know if that's happening. So tech for social good. A lot of the work we do here for Impactathons and any kind of technology that we teach, we like to keep this fundamental concept in our mind called tech for social good, because we got to recognize that the technology or the field of technology has historically excluded people, like we were talking about earlier. Black, Indigenous, people of color experienced different oppressions, and those show up in a lot of different ways. And one of them that we're seeing now is through technology and the people who are in the technology field and get to be in those careers. So we're here to start rewriting that narrative. Who can do a technology job, who can learn it. And with that being said, we gotta think about the growth mindset as well. How many of you have heard about the growth mindset? Just a little bit of a thumbs up maybe on the chat or the screen. Cool. Seeing Gabby, Karina, Arturo, Frank, Allison. Awesome. So for those of you who this might be a new concept, or maybe you've heard of it, but maybe not by that name, it's just that what we're about to teach, recognizing that we're always here to learn, and that I myself am not an expert in this, and every time I am up here talking, I'm learning something new too. And it's really, sometimes it can be really frustrating. I might experience like a little technical difficulty, but just knowing that we can get it through it together, and that like one failure isn't gonna like define my whole technology experience. And there's always room to try again and come back to it. So it's totally normal to have these like to be scared of learning, like, oh, it sounds scary, like, oh, learn about coding. But as we walk through it, you'll see that we're going to take it little by little and make it as digestible as possible. And it doesn't matter what experiences you have. So next slide is an overview. So I'm going to go into Twine, which is a platform we're going to be using for the next 2 weekends, and what some games related to mental health look like. And then we're going to create a story together. So I want you to get it in your mind that we're going to be discussing a little bit too and creating our story together. So we're going to be asking questions of like, oh, which characters do you want to see in a story, and what kind of experiences are they going through? It can be anything from like, you know, those Looney Tunes characters to a real life person. So it doesn't have to be necessarily based in this real world. And then lastly, I'm gonna show you Twine and how to use it at a very basic level. Cool. Any questions before I move on? Okay. Awesome. So I've been saying it, Twine. What is it? A few of you might have seen like videos of like on Instagram of like what it looks like. And basically it's a way for you to organize a story online, and you can tell any story that you want using this platform, and it's completely free. And some of the things that you use within this platform are called HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And those words sound a little bit confusing for people who might have not heard it before. We're going to say a lot more about that when we actually get into creating our own games tomorrow and the day afterward, the next 2 weekends. But for now, you can think of them as just languages that Twine uses to create different storytelling parts. So like putting an image inside of your your platform, or like changing the color, things like that. So that's kind of what we're going to get into and eventually create. But there are a few steps we have to take before doing that. And those include like a storyboard, and then like creating a prototype game. And then what we really want to connect to is, expressing our personal narratives. A lot of this space is for you to explore these themes we've been learning about, and kind of think about how you can bring that into the story and something you're interested in that you see in your everyday life, or something you might even be experiencing. And lastly, advocating for health equity through doing that and just telling stories, our stories. I'm gonna take, so I get really dry mouth when I talk a lot, so I'm gonna take some smoothie. Okay, so examples of what Twine is. So I'm gonna just show you really fast what a game looks like. And first, I'm gonna show you my storyboard. And a storyboard is just an outline of a story. So, I mean, before going into it, like, what are some things that you think about when creating a story? Like those basic elements that you need to tell a story, I mean. And you can comment, or you can speak up.
I first think of like the characters.
Yeah, characters. You need to think of some characters that you're gonna base your story around and what they're gonna experience, and maybe some other like friend characters or like other evil characters as well that they're gonna encounter in their journey. Any other ones that come to mind really fast?
I think of settings, like where the story's going to take place, what time, place, and all that.
Yeah, like the place where it takes, where it's happening is really important, because there might be some like environmental elements that might affect your character, and just thinking about what world, and it's not limited by anything. We've told stories in space, underwater, it can be on Earth, or just anywhere you want. So those are all awesome examples, and that's what we're talking about when we're telling stories. So this is just a basic outline of a template that will let you tell your story. And here we have what we said, characters, we have our setting, and then we just have the beginning, the middle, and the ends of our story. So what I really want to bring an emphasis on here is that there are two different forms of endings. One being called what we call like the solution, or like how you win a game. And that can be based off of this little image right here, which looks a little bit confusing, but let me walk you through it. So we have like the start of our narrative, which you might be you talk about your character, and you give some background info on what they're experiencing. And then from there would be like a choice that your character has to make. And it's like, oh, your character can either do choice A, which might be this one, or your character might do choice B, which is this. So you can consider those two different pathways or adventures that will lead you to different endings. So if I choose A, I'm going to experience this. If I choose B, I'm going to experience this, which takes me to a different ending. Is that making sense? Any questions about that? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions come up. So I'm gonna walk you really quickly through an example story that we made for this to show y'all. And it's based around someone called Tiny Turtle, and super cute. And other characters that are in this story are called Space Dog, Elon, Mollusk, and Lizards. And before I go into it, this is just like an example story. Your stories don't have to be based or look anything like this. It's just an example at the end of the day. So you're not limited to things like this. But we're talking about a setting that's underwater. And we're talking, the beginning of the story begins with like, Tiny Turtle is stressed out about school online, which I think might be relatable to a lot of people, which is how we came up with this story. We're feeling a lot of stresses. I'm feeling a lot of stresses of online learning. And we have this middle passage, which will lead us to one ending, the solution, which is all this. That will lead us to this ending. And then we have our alternative storyline that will take us to this. So let me read those for you really fast. So let's say our solution storyline is that Tiny Turtle is having trouble, a lot of anxiety around school. So one thing they can do is reach out to Space Dog for help, like, oh, how do I manage my time better? So that's one step that you can do to address your problem. And then from there, you get connected to other people, which we call lizards or peer mentors, to form study groups. So that's one thing you can do in your story to lead you to this ending, which is like, okay, I have now found a solution, which is me finding a support system for my my issue, which was time management and feeling uninspired by school. And now I feel confident in what I'm doing. So now the alternative one is I don't like school. A lot of us don't sometimes. And instead, I just want to be on YouTube, you know, which I think I've done a lot lately as well. So, the cool thing about that story is that I end up finding a lot of cool things that interest me. So I'm interested in creating like this technology, which is a hologram forum with Elon Mollusk. And I hope you all know who Elon, not hope, actually he's not that great of a guy, but Elon Mollusk is a play on Elon Musk. And that's how that's his other solution. He quit school to pursue that that technology field of the holograms, and it's still a happy ending. Like he still gets to be confident in something. So with that being said, your ending doesn't necessarily have to end in a bad way. It's just a different form of a solution sometimes. And I want you to keep that in mind. And I might be moving a little fast, so I'll take a pause for any questions so far about creating a storyboard.
Does anyone have some questions or clarifications, maybe? Can we get like a thumbs up, thumbs down?
Okay, I'm not seeing much. Quickly, just show you, oh goodness, I am running a long time. Okay, what a game would look like on Twine, and I'm gonna pull it up right now. So this is the game this is what that story that I told you about ended up being. And this is what it looks like on Twine. And it might look a little bit confusing, but when you're creating this by one, it makes a lot more sense. And it follows your own logic. But this is really about Tiny Turtle and his story. And it looks a little bit like this. So now, once I've gotten into Twine, you're gonna learn how to add images like this on Sunday. But for now, like this is what your game would kind of look like with some basic elements. Here's your background info, your characters, introducing what's gonna happen. And then you have like some different choices you can make. So that's like choice A, that's choice B, and it'll take you to those different endings. So just for choice A, I chose that, and like, you know, I reach out, I find help, and I'm just gonna follow through this game really fast. And you'll see that you can just make different options, add as much text as you want. And I think at some point these images are going to change a little bit, add different images, and it's all super fun. And we're going to get a chance to create that in the next 2 weekends. So now I'm going to guide you through the process of how we're going to do that, starting with a storyboard. And just give me 1 second to get set up. But are there any questions? Chat.
So I do have to come up with the end and the beginning.
Sorry, you have to come up with the what?
The end and the beginning, like there has to be an end in the beginning.
Yes. So right now we're going to be looking at a storyboard, and what's really helpful is that we're thinking about our story, and we're going to come up with the beginning first, and then we're going to think about the endings, our endings for those characters and their experiences, and then we're going to fill in the middle, really, of how they get there. So like we might have an idea for how our characters are going to get to choice, like choice A and what they're going to experience. But like the meat of it or the story of it happens in the middle, and usually we just choose like the beginning and the end first. Sorry, is that answering your question?
Yes, got you. Thank you.
All right, y'all. So I'm gonna request some engagement from all of you now. If you could turn your cameras on, that would be cool, so I have someone to talk to. And we're gonna create a storyboard, compiling all our ideas together with some characters, some settings, and some experiences. So first, we're gonna choose a health theme. For Tiny Turtle, it was kind of like anxiety around school, time management. So are there any that come to mind for you that you might want to focus on? And if there's any in the chat, it could be said out loud. Can't really see the chat.
Is there something maybe that's not on this theme that someone wants to recommend? We're gonna like create it together just as an example.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be, it's not limited to just these. Welcome any ideas.
For the navigating anxiety, I feel like that kind of brings in the self-care, community care, and healthy living, because those are all different ways that you can help manage anxiety.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect example. It's like, okay, we have our initial, we have our anxiety, and then like the self-care and the community care become ways to address those things. And it can be like, parts of the ending, or they can be like parts of the middle. So with that being said, do we want to focus on navigating anxiety? Maybe some thumbs up if that sounds cool. Cool, I see Patrick, Karina. Maybe I'll get majority, Frank. All right, cool, that's majority. Okay. Oop, all right. Like a game. All right, y'all. So let's jump right in. Any characters that come to mind that you want to focus on?
They could be anything like fantastical character that you just created, or even like maybe characters from like a movie or TV show. Anything you guys want. And it could be a mixture of all of those as well.
Yeah, they don't have to be real people. Sorry, what was that?
How about for the anxiety, how about we call it like an anxiety monster?
Anxiety monster, I love that. So we can have an anxiety monster. And who might the anxiety monster be, like attacking or, bothering?
Maybe the main character, I think. Like
Yeah.
the main character.
Any names out there? Do we want to maybe call them?
Can it be a frog?
Yeah. Froggo. Well, we have a Froggo. We have an anxiety monster. Maybe one more.
Maybe we can have a character that Froggo goes for help, like a
wizard.
Yeah, like a guidance.
Right.
Okay, so like a wizard guide. I love it. Okay, we have some magic. Definitely that's going to be in this story. So with that being said, I don't know, what kind of images come to mind when you think about the anxiety monster, the frog, and the wizard?
I feel like for the first part, Froggo can kind of like venture into like a dark forest and kind of like finds the anxiety monster.
Yeah, dark forest. That's actually the first image that came to my mind. It was like a forest where this is all going down. Cool. So we'll focus on a dark forest and Froggo going inside there. So this is where we can get a chance to be creative and tell anything we want. So thinking about the beginning of a story, and we know the Froggo might experience the anxiety monster that might be like pestering them or bothering them. And that we know that the wizard guide is going to be the person that's going to help Froggo. But how might we want to just start off the story, like with?
Maybe he or she is in his room thinking.
Okay, what is a
Froggo
frog?
or the Froggo?
Wait, what was that?
The Froggo or whatever is thinking or something in his room.
Frogs live near water, maybe like at the edge of the creek. Or did we establish frog is in there?
And maybe it can be at night, because I know personally, like right before I'm trying to go to bed is when all the anxiety kicks in. So maybe he's in his little bed.
Yeah, I love it. In his home. Okay, I'm repetitive. In his home at night. Excuse my grammar. The anxiety monster soon to come. All right, yo, that's the beginning. We know Frog's chilling in his home, in his room, and about to go to bed, but maybe they can't go to bed because they know the anxiety monster is going to come. So with that in mind, we can come to an end. I know we want to think of like a solution where Froggo finds a way to address the anxiety monster. And the alternative ending might be something similar and just happens in a different way. Any ideas out there to how we can do that?
Maybe someone, if you've experienced anxiety, something that's helped you with your own anxiety monster, you can type in the chat. Therapist. Karina, what do you mean?
I think like the wizard could be like the frog's therapist. I don't know, that'd be like fun. Like he goes to the wizard and the wizard's like, just gotta face him head on.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so after after talking to the wizard a few times, something along the lines of like, oh, Froggo learns how to combat or accept the anxiety monster, and a lot of those ways can be through like self-care. Are there any self-care tips that we could implement into Froggo's life that might help him with that anxiety monster?
I know like writing gratitude, like 3 things that you're thankful for every day, has shown to boost your mood and happiness.
All right, awesome. I love that. Being grateful ×3, showing gratitude. Cool. Any other ideas how people practice self-care out there? I know I like to do some deep breathing right before I go to bed. It really helps me just relax. So maybe I'll put that.
Music.
Music is a great way to de-stress. Just enjoy the vibes. Awesome. We got 3 things. Take one more if anyone's got one.
Tea, like a hot tea to relax me before
Ooh,
bed.
I love it. Hot tea before bed, like a little ritual. Yeah, Froggo has a little ritual going on now. All right, so that's our ending. You know, Froggo learns like how to take care of themselves through the wizard, and discovers all these self-care tips to eventually make the anxiety monster not such of a big deal anymore. You know, it's not that they're not there, but they might just not come out as often. There is, it's a good word for that, is is something. Not defeated, but gone sometime.
Combated? Oh,
Oh,
I don't know. I said combated, but I don't know what you were looking
combated.
for.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna move on really quickly. We can come up with an alternative ending of how we want Froggo to get there. We'll just take it from anyone.
Maybe he can kind of like not go for the straight to the wizard for advice. Maybe he's gonna try to face the anxiety monster head on and then ask for advice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so they try to, you know, try to deal with it on their own, and it might not work out.
What are some unhealthy ways that people deal with stress or anxiety?
Avoidance. So maybe they just straight up like avoid the anxiety monster, avoid the wizard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, avoiding the wizard, not going to them first, because they might be afraid to reach out, or they think they can do it on themselves. They don't need support. That's all amazing. Maybe one more example of that.
Stress eating.
Yeah, there can be like stress eating. Froggo's just been munching out as a way to just de-stress, because food can be really tasty sometimes. I've been eating a lot of ice cream lately, also because it was on sale, you know.
And also maybe like the wizard guide can approach him, like notice what's going on with him.
Ooh, I really like that. Yeah. So like being aware of other people's situations. All right, cool. There we go. We have our story. For time's sake, I think I'm going to show you Twine and how that looks like, but we have our basic elements for a story, which are our characters, our setting, the beginning and the background context, and our two endings. So what I'm going to do next is jump onto Twine really fast and show you what this would look like to start a game. And this is something y'all are going to get to do tomorrow when you create your own storyboard based around anything you want to focus on, whether it's anxiety again, or you want to focus on community care, self-care. So I'm going to pull that up right now. Let me know if you can see it. Cool. So really fast, I'm just going to create a story. Call this Froggo Journey. Cool. So what you saw me just do is basically get started on Twine. I just named my story. And this is the passage that comes up, and I'm just going to click on it. And this is where I can start writing about Froggo. So I'm just going to put like a beginning of Froggo Journey. So we know that Froggo, let me see if I can copy and paste. Maybe I'll just write. So like Froggo is experiencing a lot of occurrences, gosh, my words, with the anxiety monster. He may or may not seek support from the wizard. And then that's like something really basic. Just for time, I'm gonna leave it there. But you would then like, you can pose a question or like a choice that Froggo has to make to go forward with his journey or journeys. So I was gonna put, what should Froggo do? And then here's where we start to talk about making passages, which are the things we click on to go forward with the journey. And the only thing that you really do to do that on Twine that you have to know is the use of a bracket. We've all used brackets before. So literally I just put 2 of them down and I write, go see the wizard. And then I end it with those 2 brackets again, like that. And you see how I kind of changed colors? These are blue now. So that means I've created a passage, and that might not make sense right now, but as soon as I exit this little thing, you will see what happened. Put AM for now. So I'm gonna click out of this and you'll see what happened with this twine game. And now you see those 2 options came up for different things. And that reminds me of the little story game pathway that we have here. So that's basically the beginning of a game and how we get started. From there, I would add on to these and do the same thing and continue. And just to show you what that looks like for a basic twine game, I'm gonna push play. And then we now have this, this game that comes up where it explains what Frog is going through, and those 2 options that I can hover over like that. And I can click on one. Right now, nothing's gonna come up because I haven't wrote anything for it. So I'm gonna go back. But that would lead me down choice A and my, let's say, solution ending. If I clicked on this one, it would take me through through choice B and to my alternative ending. And I'll take a pause there for any questions. We're wrapping up soon. But does any of that make sense? We'll have a chance to build on that and go over questions the next 2 weekends, and y'all will be pros by then. And you'll get to play with this on your own very soon in the next 2 days. But I'll open.
Oh, sorry, Mark.
No, perfect.
There was a question if you can add pictures behind the words.
Yes, you can add pictures behind the words, and you can also add like GIFs. Those are all things we're going to be learning on Sunday. We can also change the colors back there and the fonts and the sizes of all that. So we're going to do a lot of different things like that in the next 2 days for sure.
Are there any questions or maybe something that isn't super clear about twine or storyboarding?
Are you guys ready to make your own stories? Sort of, kind of.
Soon. Yeah, it's all right if you're not feeling ready for this. It's a little hard to think about, but we're going to devote a lot of time in the next 2 days to developing your own stories and then getting started on twine. And we do have like a lot of, we have documents for y'all in case like, you don't have to remember all this just from me showing you, but we'll have sheets for you to reference so you can get to do all these things so you don't have to remember them. And we'll also be there to help you.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think that wraps it up.